Hey guys, Youngblood with you for your Should You Buy video on the Tumbril Storm AA. The AA was a weird situation because it didn't release with the fanfare that you would normally expect with a sale from CIG. And it almost just felt like it was released as a surprise along with the base Storm going flight ready or drivable in the game. Regardless of that, the Storm AA is a new anti-air variant of the light tank that is on sale now with LTI for $90 using all new money or war bond. And if you want to use credits, potentially from melting another ship, that will come with 10-year IAE insurance for $100. And let's be honest, that 10-year insurance is basically LTI anyways. The original Storm was designed to be a fast attack tank that complemented the larger Nova tank by having the ability to skirt perimeters while being hard to hit and leveraging a less powerful energy cannon to do the real damage, but also having the sustainability to be on the battlefield without having to worry about running out of ammunition. The AA is the same concept, though instead of having an energy cannon on top, you have a complex missile launcher that is bespoke to the tank, providing you with 64 size 1 missiles along with 16 size 2 missiles. If you're counting, that's 80 total missiles, which is pretty wild to think about. All of those missiles are either going to be leveraged to dump out in large numbers to overwhelm a target, or could be used to continue just to keep targets in the area engaged and distracted while other forces get to work. Honestly, it's a pretty powerful concept as a tool to keep people tied up and distracted. The damage output on these missiles isn't going to be that high, being size 1 and 2 missiles, but regardless of the size, the missiles, if they hit, still can do some real damage, and you have a boatload of them. Now, just like the Storm with the cannon, the AA shares the same basic elements. It has a crew size of 1 that sits in the middle of the tank where you have the digital displays in front of you for visibility. It's fast while being a little bit squirrely, while being pretty tanky as you would hope it would be, having a total hit pool of 80,600 with 27,000 of that being dedicated to the body of the tank, which is really a better look at your damage pool. To give you a point of comparison, the Vanguard has a total HP of about 42,000 and its body is only 10,000. So this tank is a really pretty durable little target, even though it's considered lighter than the Nova. The components are all size 0 vehicle size components. You have a single pin shield, a single Radix power plant, and a single Frostar SL for the cooler. The size of the Storm is 7.65 meters long, 10.25 meters wide, and 4 meters tall. The width of the Storm is what I had concerns with on its initial release because it really limits what ships it could fit in, because of the, how it really compared to the Nova and how limited the Nova tank was. Now, while the Nova really requires the Hercules to carry it around, the Storm can technically squeeze into the Carrack and the Corsair as well, so it's limited in what can move it around, but it has more flexibility than the larger Nova tank does. The width being the primary limiting dimension on the Storm. Now, I think the natural comparisons to look at with the Storm AA are going to be the Ballista, the Cyclone AA, maybe the MT as well, and potentially the Centurion, as these are the ground vehicles in the game that have the same role of air defense from the ground. Now, if we really want to do the most apt comparison, we're going to have to drop the Cyclones because they're too small and weak to really compete here. And the Centurion does really well with the guns, but it does it all with the guns. Where the Storm AA and the Ballista are much more missile focused. So we're going to be comparing the Ballista to the Storm AA. Price-wise, the Ballista was $140. The new Storm AA is being priced at $100. So the value play is favoring the Storm. But remember, value is also based on the effectiveness to really sell the value prop. So we need to kind of go a little deeper. The Ballista also has a crew size of 2, so in order to be fully operational, you do need to have 2 players compared to the one in the Storm. The reason for that is that because you also have 2 Scorpion Gatling guns on the Ballista, where the Storm has no actual guns, just the deployable missiles to do the work. So while you can use the Ballista by yourself, it does require parking and running between the turret seats based on what you need to accomplish at the moment. There is another difference that doesn't make that suck quite as much, which is that the ballista requires you to be stationary to fire anyways, while the Storm AA is going to be firing on the run. So while the AA is going to be a harder target to hit because it can be in motion, the ballista operator has to stop anyways to let their turret gunner fire, so that time that you lose from running from the driver's seat back to the actual missile turret, it's a little bit minimal. Turret in and out time does have an impact, but it's not like you're going to be running and gunning a whole lot in a ballista anyways. It's a much more stable, stationary platform. The Gatling guns also mean that the ballista has more flexibility in the types of targets that it's going to be able to engage, including ground infantry, which the Storm doesn't really have a good answer to solo aside from running them over, as well as having the ballistic Gatlings on top, which are size 2, and ballistics do a lot of damage now, makes it actually somewhat effective shooting at targets in the air as well. The size of the vehicles is just entirely different. With the Storm being wider than it is long, the ballista is longer than it is wide, and it is much, much taller, meaning that they both have weird things that kind of make them a pain to transport. The Storm is too wide for most of the ships, and the ballista is too tall for most of the ships. This does favor the Storm, though, because you can kind of squeeze the Storm into the Carrack and the Corsair, along with the 890 and the Hercules, with the latter two being the only ones that are really capable of carrying the ballista in current state of the game. Another critical area of difference is how they deal their damage and their missile loadouts. The ballista is going to choose power and damage output, with 2 size 7 torpedoes, which are very large, and 8 size 5 missiles, which are also big missiles, which may mean that you only have 10 total shots, but if they land, man, they do a lot of damage. There's not a lot of ships that are going to survive those attacks. The Storm AA, on the other hand, has 80 much smaller sized missiles, which again, don't do a lot of killing when a couple are launched at a time, but it does have the ability to stay around for a long time, lobbing these things out based on sheer quantity. So to compare the payloads and their damage potentials, the ballista has a total damage output of 320,000, while the Storm AA sits at 111,000. So you're really favoring the ballista here. The components isn't a real exciting topic here, since all of them are going to be vehicle sized, so the only real difference here to call out is in the shields, where the ballista is having 2 instead of the 1. That's helpful considering it's not a tank, it's more of an armored truck. And durability is much better on the Storm AA from a whole strength perspective, because it has a total HP of 80,600, which is about 2.5 times what the ballista has, with a similar 2.5 times improvement on the total body HP, which is 27,000 on the Storm versus 10,000 on the ballista. The ballista also has a 10,000 limit on the nose, or kind of that front cab, which the Storm does not have. So that is fortunate again with the Storm by making it harder to exceed the total damage limit that any particular part on the ship has before it goes critical, meaning 10,000 on the body or 10,000 on the nose of the ballista is going to make it toast. There's not a nose value on the Storm, so you have to take the body over 27,000 or take the entirety of the ship past 80,000 to get it to blow up. It's a much more durable creature. Both of these missile platforms have the ability to fire on other ground vehicles, though missile performance on targets on the ground varies greatly from patch to patch and is super unreliable. I do at least appreciate the ability to fire on the move that the Storm AA brings. Overall, comparing the ballista to the Storm, I think I still prefer the ballista, but it's pretty close. I like the larger missile outputs. I like the design a little bit better. I like the Gatlings in addition to the missiles. It just feels a little bit more well-rounded. The AA is worth a look, though, as it does provide greater durability, maneuverability, and ability to be transported is more flexible, all while being a little bit cheaper. It's a pretty tough call, meaning it's probably pretty well balanced and may come down to a preference-based decision, which also means that I think CIG did a nice job in their initial balance comparing the two and finding a place where not one of these options is going to be deliberately better or objectively better than the other. So Should you buy the Tumbril Storm AA? That simple answer is no. Ground vehicles never have a good value of what you spend in real money to what you spend in the game and how long it takes to earn them. Compared to the Ballista, which was $140 in real money, or in game, it's only about 365,000 credits, I think, which can be earned in a few hours. That same 140,000 or 140 bucks real money could buy you a Freelancer Dirt, actually only 135. And if you compare that price to earn into the game, it's 1.967 million UEC. The numbers just don't make sense. So no, don't buy ground vehicles with your actual money. Earn them. I'll say it forever. I will say it again, but I hope people will listen because it just doesn't make sense. If you just want to support the game, or you're passionate about this and you want it now, knowing you're not going to be able to buy the Storm AA until next patch because they're trying to drive sales up, then go for it. Just know that you're probably going to be better off melting those for credits later and buying something else, because you just don't have a good investment in what you've spent. That being said, though, the AA is a nice addition that I think found a good spot to sit and will be favored by a lot of people. And if you're shopping in future patches for something to shut down areas, give it a go. It's a good little tank with a lot of staying power from a durability, mobility, and missile quantity perspective. So that's it for now. Hopefully you have a better idea of what the tank is and how it does what it does. If you have questions, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, stay tuned for the next video, which is going to be a walk around on both storms and comparing them a little bit. Otherwise, have yourselves a wonderful day and take care.